All right. It's very rare that we have an on-air personality better than us on the show, but today we may have met our match. He is the 2002 and 2003 recipient of the Air Award, which recognized him as the best radio sports anchor in New York City market, as well as the New York Emmy Award-winning sportscaster for on-air camera achievement. Oh, and he is a mainstay with the WWE. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Scott Stanford.
Well, that was some introduction. I mean, I don't know if I'm better than you guys, but that was a very nice introduction. By the way, you forgot just this past Saturday picking up my 5th Emmy Award for on-air sports anchor here. I don't know if you guys wanted to mention that. I figured I'd bring it up anyway.
Well, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. How are you doing?
Good, guys. Glad to be on with you today.
Well, you said it. Congratulations on winning yet another New York Emmy Award this past Saturday for your work with Pix 11 News. It's not every day we have an Emmy Award winner on the show. How does it feel to be recognized on such a large scale?
Oh, it's great. It was funny when I won the award. I was up against 3 other guys who were huge names in New York: Al Troutwig, who's part of Madison Square Garden, Bob Lorenz, who's on the Yes Network, and Bruce Beck, who's been a big sportscaster in New York on NBC. I know all those guys were all friends. And when I actually went up and accepted the award, I said, if this was the Academy Awards, it was almost like those 3 guys are, Denzel Washington, Al Pacino, and Robert De Niro, and I'm like the Shia LaBeouf of the group. So it was a big deal for me to beat those guys, and it was a lot of fun. The only thing I don't have right now is a Slammy Award, and that's what I'm trying to get.
Wow. Well, you must be reading our mind, because you've won a lot of awards, but one still eludes you. When do you think you'll be bringing home the only award that matters, the WWE Slammy?
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, maybe with the Raw pre-show with Otunga and Graves, one of these days we can win a Slammy Award. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't think anyone in WWE, Otunga is the only Harvard Law School educated superstar. I'd be the only guy who won an Emmy and a Slammy in one career, which would just be phenomenal.
Well, I write you in every year, so let's hope that counts.
I appreciate that.
All right, well, let's back up a little bit. Can you give us some background briefly on how you became an award-winning sports anchor that you are today?
Well, you know what, guys? I've been, I wanted to be a broadcaster since I'm a little kid. I mean, I was born with a microphone in my hand, and I was always doing talent shows at school and pretending to be. You talk about WWE. When I was 13, 14 years old, I have a video, I think, which is still up online, of me interviewing my brother. He was this character, Starman. I was Mean Gene. So when I was younger, as a huge wrestling fan, I didn't want to be a WWE superstar. I always wanted to be Vince. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be the guy interviewing the people on the side of the ring and the superstars and doing the play-by-play. But I did my thing, and I broke into local radio in the New York market. Luckily, I never had to go out of town like most people do. I broke in on radio in the suburbs of Manhattan, and that was my out-of-town experience. And then one thing led to another. I ended up on WCBS 880 here in New York, and it turned out that the news director at Channel 5, Fox 5 in New York, was a big fan of mine, listening to me every day. So he offered me an audition. I went in, auditioned for him, and it was an all-shtick audition. I mean, I was singing Brady Bunch songs and doing poems and things. I just did it offbeat, and different than what you normally see someone do as an audition. The guy hired me on the spot, and I ended up at the UPN and the My Network affiliate here in New York, which was owned by Fox 5. And when SmackDown started on the My Network, I was the guy that they elected to cover WWE for the entire My Network across the country, because I was the local guy, and WWE is obviously here in the tri-state area. And one thing led to another, and I got to be real friendly with the PR guys up there. And lo and behold, one day they were looking for a studio host, and it was almost like I was already working for them, because I was covering them every week for when SmackDown would go off the air. All the news stations that would come on at 10 o'clock would want to run a WWE piece to keep the audience who was watching SmackDown. So that's kind of how I got involved with all that stuff. So one thing led to another, and it's one of those things where you gradually move up and move up and move up. And, here I am. I'm still trying to move up, but things are working out pretty well so far.
All right.
Well, when I think of great sports anchors, two names come to mind. You, Scott Stanford, and Champ Kind from Anchorman. So how do you think you stack up against Champ?
Good old Champ, huh?
Yeah. I've
had a few Anchorman experiences in my life. Believe me, when something comes up on the prompter you're not ready for it, you actually go ahead and read it. It's pretty funny.
Do you have a catchphrase kind of like whammy that you like to use a lot?
No, you know what? I just steal everybody else's stuff and throw it in. We have a legendary weather guy here at Pix 11. His name's Mr. G. He's been on the air in New York since I'm a little kid. And he's usually just the brunt of all my jokes every night. So I have fun with him. And, not one catchphrase. I pretty much just kind of steal them all.
All right. Now, being from a wrestling hotbed like New York, you had to have been a fan of wrestling growing up, right? Or who were some of your favorites?
I was an absolute fan of wrestling. Like I said, my brother and I used to do stuff on video. I'd pretend I was Mean Gene. Growing up, even before the first WrestleMania, when there was once a month, the big matches every month were at Madison Square Garden on Monday nights, once a month on closed circuit TV. And you would never see, the guys back in the day like Bruno Sammartino and Pedro Morales and Andre. You would never see those guys wrestle on TV like we do, now where you see them every week. They would always save those guys to wrestle on those Monday nights once a month at Madison Square Garden. And my dad used to take us there. There's a place down here called the Westchester County Center, which they still go to on live house shows once in a while. It's a small little venue. My dad used to take us there. I used to see Ivan Putski, the Polish Power, and Andre the Giant. And it was, you're right up close because it's like a 2,000-seat little arena here. But Johnny Rods, S.D. Jones, all those guys who used to lose every week. We used to emulate those guys. My brother and I would wrestle all the time in the house. He'd get me in the Boston Crab and the Camel Clutch, till I started crying. And it was just, wrestling was the thing in our house. And again, Vince McMahon interviewing the wrestlers on the side of the ring like we used to see when we were kids. That was the guy who I wanted to be.
Now, you've become a permanent fixture in WWE as of late. So what's your favorite part about working with the WWE?
Well, you know what? Fortunately, I've been there now 6 years. And it's funny because when I first started, I was working in the studio. And, the way it works with WWE is you can get a phone call at any time to do anything, whether it's a month from now or tomorrow. And one day, I get a call. I was at NBC, Channel 4 in New York, doing my weekend shift. I get a call from our boss at WWE. He says, "Hey, can you get to Wichita, Kansas on Monday? We'll set up the plane. He said, Can you get there?" I said, "Yeah, sure. What am I doing?" I don't know yet. Just go. So I show up in Wichita, Kansas. I show up to the arena. I'm hanging out backstage with everybody. And it's, I think, 4 o'clock. The show starts at, Superstars would go on the air, I think, at 7 or 7:30. And I get a phone call, "Put your tie on, you're doing Superstars tonight." And I was like, I'm sorry, say that again? "Put your tie on, you're doing Superstars tonight. You're calling Superstars with Jerry the King Lawler." Wow. And I was like, holy, you know what? Ran to the computer. You wait for the match card to come out, get all your information, and next thing I know, I'm doing Superstars with Jerry the King Lawler. And I ended up doing Superstars for 2.5 years, and I got to partner up with CM Punk for a couple of weeks, and Josh Matthews at the time, and Matt Stryker, and that was my favorite part. Being on the road, doing the live shows, because there's nothing better than walking out into the arena, and even though it's Superstars, you're the first thing that people see that night. So anyone who's introduced, they go nuts. So it was always fun walking out, doing the live show, doing the pay-per-view pre-shows with Stryker once a month. It's such a big rush when you have the people, the directors are in your ear, you're calling the matches, you got to get out on time, and it's just really, it's almost like a high being out there and doing that stuff. But now that we have the network, everything, there's going to be a lot more live programming going on. The Raw pre-show, which we do at 7:30 on Monday nights, is a lot of fun. We have here's a little inside information, which isn't really inside information, but we have a new set coming out really soon, which may or may not start this week. It's just a really cool virtual set that they built at the WWE headquarters. And I do a lot of pre-tape things that air around the world, which I'll go up to Stamford, Connecticut and knock out in 2 days. I do this week in WWE and, shows that are on in 37 countries. So it's just, I've had a chance to do every aspect so far. So I know that whatever they call me to do, whatever they need me to do, I'm always ready to go. And, you always have to be ready when they offer you up that chance, because sometimes you only get one chance to do it. And if the people at the top like what you did, they'll continue to use you. If not, they'll always find somebody else. And that's just the way it works, in any broadcasting business.
Sure. Now, we constantly hear about wrestling schools popping up here and there, but rarely do we hear about a school opening up for people interested in being a commentator or on-air personality. Any chance we may see the Scott Stanford School for people interested in becoming a commentator or on-air personality anytime soon?
It's funny because I've often thought of doing that, of opening up like a broadcast performance school. Maybe when I'm done with this, I could do that. But I know, just like with the superstars down at NXT, when they find people that they like to be broadcasters, they'll work, with folks. I know when Tom Phillips first broke in and Renee first broke in, they would go down to NXT and they would work with Michael Cole and JR and folks like that would go down and work with them. So I know it's a great opportunity to do that. If it's so hard to get in the door. I mean, there's only so many opportunities to go around. But if you're persistent and you stay at it, it pops up, and they know when people are ready to roll. So they'll work with you down there. I know they have a couple of guys down there now. Jason Albert, Alex Riley was doing it for a little bit. It's not the easiest thing in the world. And believe me, what Michael Cole does every Monday night is a lot harder than he makes it look. And I've never seen anybody do it better than him and JR and Vince back in the day. It is really hard to sit out there for 3 hours and be excited and make it sound like, half the time you don't even know what Cole, you may not even know what he's saying, but he makes it sound exciting.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Even if you're not really listening, he makes it sound exciting. Mm-hmm. So I would say it's harder to be an announcer because there's less announcers than there are superstars. So it's a very tough business to break into, but I would never tell anybody not to do it if that was something they really wanted to do.
Right.
Well, there's some other exciting news as that SummerSlam is actually invading in your backyard this August. So are you looking forward to being part of the biggest party of the summer?
Well, I have to tell you, I'm excited about the Barclays Center because not only that, but Pix 11 on this Friday morning, we have to, we're cutting the ribbon on a Pix 11 studio at Barclays Center because Pix 11 in New York has a huge partnership deal with Barclays Center. So it's to bring, both companies I work for are going to be there for that weekend. So I'm looking forward to it. And it's funny because, as part of our marketing deal, my picture comes up once in a while at the Barclays Center. Unfortunately, the Nets are out of the playoffs and the Islanders don't start yet, so there's nothing really going on there sports-wise. I think SummerSlam at Barclays is going to be great. I'm sure they'll have the fan access going on outside, and that whole area in Brooklyn, they've built up so nicely with the restaurants, and it's a beautiful place to be right now. And the Barclays Center itself is phenomenal. So SummerSlam at Barclays, it is going to be a wild 4 days. I can tell you that.
Lightning round.
The next big thing in the WWE.
I think you saw him the other night, Sami Zayn.
Okay, what are the whereabouts of Scott Stanford?
I think he's still at a rehab center in Vegas.
Zach Ryder.
Zach Ryder. The thing that comes to mind with Zach is untapped talent.
Okay. Dolph Ziggler.
Very, very tapped into talent. One of the greatest performers I've ever seen.
All right. Tough Enough.
Tough Enough, going to be a great show. I always tell people, I know this isn't one word, but I see a lot of auditions online. You got to come with that personality. Got to come with the person. A lot of people think they have it, and when you watch the videos, it's kind of like, oh, wah, wah, wah. You got to bring that personality for Tough Enough.
All right. Now, you've been working with Otunga and Corey Graves a lot lately, but who would your dream announce partner be?
Oh, my dream announce. Well, I'll tell you what. I really had a good time working with CM Punk.
Okay.
Great time with Punk. I mean, I guess if I had to pick one guy to actually do something with on a play-by-play level for WWE, love to do Vince back in his heyday or Jesse the Body.
All right. What would your wrestling name be?
I think my wrestling name, it's funny, when I think wrestling names, immediately I go to adult film star names. And I think, maybe Hugh Jordan. Can we say that? Can we say that on the air?
I think so. Well, you just did.
We just said it.
Now entering the ring at 220 pounds.
Well, Scott, we barely scratched the surface today with you. We really appreciate your time tonight. And where can fans follow you and keep up with you on social media?
My Twitter is at Scott Stanford 1. And that's really it. I do the Facebook stuff, but that's really just for kind of friends and family. So really at Scott Stanford 1 is the place to go. Anyone can contact me there.
All right. Well, we really appreciate your time tonight, Scott. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thanks a million. Anytime you want to do this again, let me know.
On today's show, we are turning the tables. We are about to interview the interviewer. He has seen it all in his long and storied career. His interviews are legendary, and he is one of, if not the most recognizable announcers in the history of professional wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, please help us welcome Mr. Gene Okerlund.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. I thought you were going to say Jim Ross for a minute there. Yeah, please.
Well,
he's on a diet right now, so I'm not going to say too much.
Thanks for coming on the show, obviously. How are you doing today?
Didn't I just answer that question? I'm doing fabulous. I'm doing fabulous. I've got 3 doctor appointments this afternoon. No, hold it. One of them's a barber. No, I'm doing fine, guys. I'm kind of at the peak of my game. I've been playing golf a little more since the first of the year with the absence of a whole lot of travel. And, once you get that handicap up high enough, you can make money.
There you go.
And isn't that what it's all about anyway?
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Right.
So, Mean Gene, professional wrestling has had its ups and downs as far as popularity over the years. What do you think about the current state of pro wrestling?
I think wrestling, for the 45 years I've been in it, has, even in that short amount of time, if you take a look at the big picture, has been very cyclical. I'm finding golf right now is very cyclical. You take a look at the guys that are on top, Spieth, Bowditch, Kuchar, guys, names we hadn't heard about 5 years ago. Well, much of the same, I think, is taking place right now in the WWE. I'm not going to say wrestling in general because some of these territorial guys, both in and out of the country, have been there forever. But there isn't a big change. The weight is off Cena's shoulders. The Rock is, a once or twice a year commodity. Stone Cold Steve Austin shows up for a podcast now and then. And, life goes on. All of those names are kind of now in the background. And we've got Reigns, we've got Ambrose, we've got all of these other guys. Sheamus is even, got a pretty good rep right now on the road. They show up for this guy.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
Well, do you see anybody in the current landscape that you'd like to interview? You mentioned some people like Sheamus and Dean and Roman. Is there anybody that you'd really like to get to interview?
There are a ton of guys I'd like to get to interview that I want to get back at, actually, for them working me over the first time or two. But, Eric Bischoff is a guy that I want to interview. I would think I'd like to interview. He's not with the company right now, but Albert Del Rio, and I know he's going to be at the New England Fan Fest. Lord knows I've interviewed Jimmy Superfly Snuka enough, and also Hulk Hogan, the late great Macho Man Randy Savage, who, by the way, was a classic in every sense of the word. So those are some of the guys I would like to, after his Hall of Fame speech, Larry Zabisco, maybe I don't want to interview him right away. He'll give you a yes and no answer.
That's right. Now, Gina, you were part of pro wrestling's, two big boom periods in the 80s and then in the Attitude Era. Do you think wrestlers today still have the same passion for the business as you saw in your interviews back then?
I think the wrestlers do. But, you see, we're not doing interviews anymore, with the exception of Renee Young probably will do a 30-second soundbite with a piece of talent, but it's all scripted. The guys I talk to, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, Hogan, Savage, all of these guys back in the glory days in the mid-'80s when I guess the landscape changed forever as we now know it, with the advent of WrestleMania 1. Different deal today. These guys are handed a sheet put together by a writer, and they memorize it or at least do the bullet points, and that's the name of the game today. Much different. We did more great stuff by accident than these guys do on purpose.
Now, you just mentioned Renee Young. The WWE has a lot of great up-and-coming interviewers, announcers. Do any of them get the Mean Gene seal of approval?
Well, I'd have to say the only one I work with is Renee Young, but I mean, there's Scott Stanford. We've got a number of young guys that are going through either NXT or just going through the rigors of working up in the studio. And by the way, your home state of Connecticut, why the hell am I doing an interview in Connecticut that's going to be taking place for an event in Providence, Rhode Island?
I stranger things have happened. I guess that we had to talk to you about this, and it is in Connecticut. We're based out of New York, and you're going to be in Rhode Island. So it's a crazy thing we're doing here.
Well, I'm going to be in beautiful downtown Stamford, Connecticut, this coming Wednesday. So if you get a chance, stop by for a drink. I'm not going to ask you to buy. I know you'll do that on your own.
Absolutely.
Right.
Now,
no, I see Renee Young's got a lot of talent, and she's got some assets that I would never have had. She's very attractive. She's got a big, beautiful set of eyes, and that really makes kind of the massage look. She's terrific.
Sure.
And Friday night after work, we get together, by the way, for a bump, too.
All right.
Cocktail.
Oh, okay.
Don't misread that.
Okay.
Now, Gino, you mentioned briefly about the New England Fan Fest happening June 27th in Rhode Island. You're going to be a part of it. You're going to be a part of, their super ticket guests and fans. Fans are going to be able to take photos and get autographs with you. What do events like these mean to you?
Well, I don't do a lot of them, so they mean quite a bit. I'm excited about talking to the fans and kind of hearing their story. They can hear mine, or they know it. It's on Wikipedia or virtually any site that you want to pick up today. But I don't know about the fans. Some guy's a truck driver from Milford. The other guy might be, a butcher from Boston. And, of course, I always like to talk to the ladies. They're real interesting. I think a couple of them had made a move on me.
I wouldn't put it past you.
Yeah, we'll kind of keep an eye on all of them to make sure that if things get
No, I'm going to have security there. Don't worry about it.
okay, perfect.
It has to be done in behind closed walls,
Absolutely.
you might say.
Now, you're obviously a big part of WWE history, and you mentioned you get to do some stuff with the network, and we get to go back and relive classic Mean Gene moments as well as see some new ones. You were a part of the Legends of Legends House. How do you think that turned out, and would you ever want to do a second season?
Well, I don't think there'll ever be a second season for that particular cast.
Yes.
If you're going to do it, let's freshen it up, with new talent. Ted DiBiase, by the way, the $1 Million Man, was not in the Legends House 1. And so were a whole lot of other guys. I thought we had a great crew, but at the end of the month and living with these guys day and night, 24/7, no cell phone, no TV, no radio, really didn't have a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Play little cards, and we could have a cocktail. But it's a pretty arduous, I would say, 30 or 35 days, day and night.
Okay.
They, honest to God, did not let you out of the place. And then they bring in celebrities like Adam West, Batman, the guy that's older than God. And we also had Gary Busey, you know him,
Yeah.
Buddy Holly, and a lot of other things. And he's nuts. I'm sure he'll be certified so within the next 30 days. He was talking about me and Roddy Piper going over to the other side. What he was talking about was us dying, and we were talking about getting out of that joint for a day or two.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Now, you also were on the Legends of Wrestling. You were hosting for a while. Do you think that we'll get to see more of those shows in the future?
I'd like to take it back to that same format and do a couple of other things, and probably cover more than one subject in the course of an hour and 15 or an hour and 20 minutes. I enjoyed doing the Legends of Wrestling just by virtue of the fact the guys you worked with. I worked with Jimmy Ross. I worked with Pat Patterson, with Michael Hayes, with, guys that we brought in. Sergeant Slaughter was in. Piper was in for a while. We just had a lot of great ones that really could reminisce and really embellish on the old days, made them sound better than they were.
Sure. Now, speaking
for what it's worth.
Sure. And now, speaking of some legends, you've literally interviewed them all, from Ric Flair to Liberace. Did you have any personal favorites that you loved to interview?
I loved Liberace's roommate. No, I'm kidding. I had a lot of favorites, but they came in eras. I started in 1971, and back then it was a guy that I just did a eulogy for a couple of weeks ago, Vern Gagne, who was truly the first babyface to ever hit wrestling TV in the early 1950s. But then there was Crusher and Bruiser and Mad Dog Vachon, and later on it was Nick Bockwinkel, the High Flyers. Hulk Hogan was a big surprise for me in 1980 or 81 when he first came to the AWA. He was not the greatest interview on the face of God's green earth. He was, as we call in the business, very green, both as a worker and as a communicator. But it didn't take long. He had Johnny Valiant as his manager to do the talking for him for, I would say, the better part of a month, and then he was gone, and Hulk was on his own, and he was great.
Yeah, and then also, on the flip side of that, who were some of the people you just didn't want to interview or didn't like to interview? Is there anybody you want to name? Or?
You mean boring people? Boring people?
Yeah.
Yeah, there were, but some of them were linguistic differences. And when all of the Lucha Libras came into WCW in the 1990s, I had a little trouble with Juventud Guerrera, La Parca, and the likes of Rey Mysterio was quite good. Of course, he's from San Diego, as we know, with the 619 area code. But I really didn't have any that were real dullards. Some of the guys in WCW, Glacier was a little tough to get anything out of. So what we did there is we'd crank that down to about 30 or 40 seconds and get the message across that he was going to be facing Mike Graham or somebody else. And the guys that could talk, Ric Flair was entertainment standing up or laying down. You couldn't deny this guy. I mean, God, he had heart attacks in the ring, and it was just great. I enjoyed working with him as much as anybody. But Hogan was the guy that really first teamed it up very big.
Yeah.
That's a phone. Don't even think about it. I can't find it anyway.
That's right.
On with our conversation.
Absolutely. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever made this connection or not, but you, Shawn Michaels, and NXT wrestler Tyler Breeze have something in common. Well, actually, two things. Great looks, and you all sang your own theme song. So did you enjoy getting to sing Tutti Frutti?
Well, I did, because I sang that when I was a kid, one of my favorite songs. Back then it was done by two people, originally Little Richard, and thereafter by the great Elvis Presley. And I'm sure a ton of people have done it since. But it's a great song. And by the way, Cyndi Lauper produced that little piece for us.
Oh, wow, nice. Now, you've had some ventures outside of wrestling too. How did Mean Gene's Burgers and Pizza come about?
Well, that came about through my nephew, who was the president of a food company that was a subsidiary of Schwann's. You know, the guys that drive around in the trucks. Yep. And they also have Red Baron and Tombstone Pizza and Tony's and all the good stuff you see in the supermarket. Sure. And they had a concept for a burger, but they didn't have anything they could really hang their hat on. And at that time, big names like Dave Thomas with Wendy's, Colonel Harlan Sanders with KFC, and other personalities were endorsing the products and doing much better than somebody on their own, with the possible exception of McDonald's and Burger King. And pizza, you know, it's run by personalities today. Papa John's, generic, it would be Pizza Hut and a couple of others, but the personality kind of drives the brand. So that's what we used it for. And at one point we were up to 400, and I think we're down to about 120, but we've limited the failures. So it's a very volatile industry, and we're now both in college, university, and in military worldwide. And that is kind of the real big part of our business today. There's a few little mom and pops here and there, but not a big deal for us.
Okay. Now,
big deal for them, but not for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we talked about New England Fan Fest, and the day before the actual Fan Fest, you're going to be part of a VIP dinner that starts at 6 p.m. Tickets are still on sale for that right now. You're going to be joining some elite company the night. Such guests as Larry Zbyszko, Zeus, Maria Kanellis, Jim Ross, Eric Bischoff, and Tony Atlas. Are you excited to catch up with some of these old friends?
Real excited to catch up with Tony. He was my roommate in the Legends house. That drove me nuts. He had noises coming out of every part of his body.
Now, you mentioned that you got to, you'd like to...
Hey, are we being censored here?
No, not at all.
You guys aren't beeping me out, are you?
Nope,
no way.
Oh, okay.
Now,
No, I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of these guys. I saw Eric a couple of months ago. I look forward to seeing him. I also look forward to seeing Bill Goldberg, although I don't know if Bill is going to be at that Friday night dinner, but he's certainly going to be very present on Saturday. Another guy I want to see is, since he kind of got the the spanking would be Alberto Del Rio. I like this guy, and I've just got a feeling that he is going to be back in WWE in short order. That is not anything that I know for certain, but it's my prediction. All right. And I predicted American Pharaoh, so there you go. This guy can pick a winner. Howard Finkel. Howard Finkel, who couldn't miss him?
Now, Gene, also on that Saturday night, you were going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame by Howard Finkel. Are you happy about becoming a new Hall of Famer over there for the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame?
I indeed am. And if you recall, I was the one that introduced or presented Howard Finkel into the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's kind of in the announcing and celebrity wing with myself and a lot of guys. Schwarzenegger, Trump, they're all in there. You know, you wonder where they come from in wrestling. Hell, we even had Pete Rose inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. I think that was back in 2004 in New York. And he did tell me one thing. He confided. He never bet on wrestling.
Well, we also just found out that you're going to be part of a Q&A session hosted by Howard Finkel. So is there anything, I guess we shouldn't ruin this, but is there anything that you don't get asked by fans and that you've always wanted to talk about? Maybe we can start getting some good questions going here.
Well, there are a lot of things. Fans have got their own opinions of what happens in and out of the ring and with various personalities. There was a time when Hulk Hogan was booed out of the house. I don't know if you recall that, but how kind of the moods and the attitudes towards certain talent can change. There was a match between Paul Orndorff and Hulk Hogan. Guess who was the babyface? Orndorff. Hogan was the heel. I was there, knocked me right off my feet.
Lightning round.
Do you have a favorite adult beverage?
I have a favorite adult beverage. I like to have a Kettle One dirty with a blue cheese stuffed olive with a glass of ice water back. Don't vermouth. Don't poison the good stuff.
Your thoughts on Ric Flair?
The Nature Boy, a classic, probably one of the all-time greats, especially in terms of longevity. Longevity. He's in Europe right now, working one-nighters.
All right, how about Vern Gagne?
Vern Gagne was the guy that kind of started it all. He broke in. His main opponent was a gentleman by the name of Gorgeous George, who wore a robe, very much like a lady's housecoat back then, and he carried bobby pins with him. Actually, Gorgeous George, this flamboyant guy with the atomizer spraying the people and taunting them, was an introverted farm boy from Nebraska by the name of George Wagner. So there's a big difference in those two personalities.
Okay, what is your favorite memory of Bobby Heenan?
I got too many of them to share them, but we had some classic moments together. You know, he and I were dating at the same time, Mae Young and the Fabulous Moolah. And we had a lot of fun with those gals, by the way. I'm sorry to say they're gone, but I had no part of that.
Yeah?
Yeah, they died of natural causes. I think the line was old age.
Yes.
Right.
All right, how about Vince McMahon?
Vince McMahon, pure genius and a workaholic. And that says it all.
Okay. Lastly, Mr. T.
Mr. T is a piece of human garbage. I inducted him also into the Hall of Fame a couple of years back. But, God, he wouldn't show up on time for appearances. He kind of went against the grain. One time we were going to do an interview, and he says, I can't do it, brother. I got to get up in the limo, get my head straight. And I says, well, that's a little bullshit for me, because I'm standing here with the microphone and ready to do it now. He did the interview.
Laying down the law.
All right,
Well, you got to. Otherwise, I mean, some of these guys, they'll do it when they want to or feel like it. And that's not the way we play the game.
There you go. Well, Mean Gene, we thank you so much for coming on. Where can the fans keep up with you these days? I know now everybody's into the social media universe with Twitter and Facebook. Is there places where fans can reach out to you or website?
Yeah, they can, both on Facebook and Twitter. And I, like you gentlemen, am talking to a major distributor of podcasts, but I wouldn't be able to start something like that until this fall. Just too much to do in the summer.
All right.
Too much fun to have.
That's right.
Drinking and golfing. No.
Gene.
No, but it's something I'm looking into right now, and that would be a possibility. It was brought up to me by some guys in Chicago that said, hell, you've talked to everybody. Why wouldn't you be doing the interviews now on a podcast?
There you go.
And I guess that was a legitimate question.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in the meantime, I'm going to have you cover for me.
Thank you.
And they're doing an excellent job. And getting to see, the Jimmy Rosses, Bischoff, even James Cornette is going to be there.
That's right.
Can you believe that?
Oh, yeah.
Snuka, Valentine, Scotty Hall, Razor Ramon, Melina is going to be there. John Morrison, I like this kid. I thought he had a hell of a lot of potential, and then he just kind of fell off the face of the earth. And then, of course, old-time friends like Howard Finkel, Zabisco, Tony or Tiny Mills, now known as Zeus. I saw him in San Diego with Dennis Rodman. Oof, what a pair to draw to, yeah. Tony Estes and two of my favorites, two of my all-time favorites in wrestling, Kelly Kelly and Diana Hart Smith.
Oh, yeah.
She's the widow of the late Davy Boy Smith. But she's got a son by the name of Davy Boy, Harry, but he's going to be there. Oh, Tatanka. Don't forget Tatanka.
That's right.
We'll be there.
That's right, you guys.
I'm assuming you guys are going to run up.
Oh, yeah.
For both the VIP dinner and the festivities on Saturday.
We are going to be there.
Yeah, we'll see you there, Gene.
I'm looking forward to it. And guys, thanks for your time today.